after as well. There we go. So yeah, welcome all to Buying Here and Now. Um, we like this class because Jesse and I were chatting beforehand about how there's a lot of just misinformation and a lot of negativity in the media about buying a house. Whether it's you're hearing rates are so high or prices are going to fall, or there's just so much negativity, or, our generation can't buy a house because they're so expensive. There's just so much negativity. But we talk to, I don't know, Jesse, 100 plus clients a month.
Yep.
We help over 360 families buy a year. We've seen the cleanest and we've seen the dirtiest. And we're kind of here to tell you you can buy. And it's probably a good time to buy. So, yeah, a lot of this conversation are some tips as you're entering this market, but also just dispelling some of the emotion that comes with buying a house, and sticking on the logic. Because logically, it's a great time to buy, and waiting can cost you. So yeah, we want to spend some time just chatting about this market and why we do think it's a great time still.
Heck yes.
Yeah. And I kind of jumped ahead to this slide, which is just telling you what you're going to learn and leave with. We want to teach you about where the Richmond and Central Virginia real estate market is, kind of talk about home prices. Are we at a balloon? Are home prices going to fall? What rates are doing, have been doing, and what we're predicting that they're going to do. And like we said, just strategies for winning in this market. There's a lot of tools you have as you're getting ready to make an offer. You don't have to get every tool out of your toolbox, but it's nice to know what tools are in there. So when the right house comes up, we can pull the tools out and win. We welcome questions. And look at this small, tight-knit little group. I love it. Like, please,
Yes.
anytime, just feel free to shout out questions. Like, I want this to be a collaborative conversation as we're moving forward. So please pause me and ask questions. And it looks like we got another person, so I'm just going to admit Mr. Lucas real quick while we continue. So let's start first with where home prices are headed. We're again hearing probably a lot in the media or just on the news that home prices are high and that they have to fall, and that we should wait for these prices to fall. Will they fall? Likely not. Again, we're going to get away from emotion and stay on logic and look at the facts. As we look at ahead of us or in front of us now is a graph of what median sales price for homes were in the United States. So this is a national graph since 1960. As we can see, there have been few dips in home prices. The gray bars on this graph show, is it the gray, Jesse? That's what it looks like to me.
It
Yes.
is. It is the gray.
They show these little micro dips in prices that the market experienced during certain times. So we can go back and see kind of that 2008, 2010, boom, there's the housing crash right there. Here's our COVID. We saw that small dip in prices with COVID. And then, of course, post-pandemic, there has been a price surge.
hmm Yeah. Surge and then still leveling out from there. I mean, this is a graph showing 60 years,
Yeah,
and that's a strong trend upward.
I agree. I love this. I'm more like, I love looking at this, the green versus the red. This shows the average US house appreciation values going up since World War II, which is when they first started tracking these things. We can see in 1990, house prices went down by 1%. And then, of course, there it is. There's our 2008 housing crash where we did see the fall in prices. I wish this went into, I think our next slide does speak to 23 and 24, but even from 2021 to 2022, 2020, I'm sorry, to 2021, we saw a 19% increase. Of course, that was COVID. And then we saw it level back out at 2022. So, in the same breath that we don't think house prices will fall, I don't think we can anticipate quite the surge that we saw coming off of the pandemic. COVID, we saw a huge surge there in 2020 and 2021, with it steadying back out at the 6%. And I will say the Richmond market on average appreciates 5% year over year. And then here we go, the average home prices in the Richmond area. So now this is local. Because when you do talk to our team, you'll hear us talk a lot about stay with the local data. I love the analogy of going to WebMD versus your primary care physician. It's really easy to go to WebMD and say, I have a headache, I have a bad cough. And typically, WebMD is going to tell you you have the common cold, but it's also going to tell you seven other
Mhm.
illnesses you could possibly have. You go to your primary care physician to be diagnosed, to get the facts, and to again, just stick to the logic and stay out of the emotion. So, yeah, Richmond prices are on their way up, and we don't see that changing. Why for
Pretty
Richmond?
safe.
Say that again, Jesse.
Yeah, it's a pretty we're in a pretty safe area being in Richmond. Some of these national averages, they're including a lot of cities and places that are just much different than Richmond. So when we're talking specific and local as the primary care physicians, this Richmond and surrounding area is safe. It's confident. It's pretty secure.
Mhm. I feel like we're only growing. And so then we look as well as, and I think that these slides might be out of order here. So we are going to come back to that last slide, guys, because I promise in the right order, it feels better. So we're looking at, we talked through house prices and how we don't think that house prices are going to have a huge surge, but we also don't think that there's going to be a big fall. I think the big thing that people ask about, because we get those questions from clients often, is interest rates. That's kind of the buzzword that everyone wants to know about. That's really what we're hearing about in the media day after day. So what's really happening now? And what can we actually expect in the future? Spoiler alert, too, we can't really know. We can't predict where rates are going to go, but we can look to historical data and trends that we've seen over time to predict how we think the market will continue forward. Before I do move on to any graphs on rates, does anyone have any questions on house prices and what we've covered so far with appreciation and house prices uh, continuing to go up? Well, go. There we go. So where are we now? We're going to start first with where we are now. So average, I would say for a 30-year fixed interest rate is right around 6.6 to 6.7. Over the last 12 months, we've seen a lot of movement. We've been anywhere from the low sixes to close to 8%. Rates feel high. Again, going off of that pandemic that we were all used to. And Amanda, you bought during the pandemic, so you can speak to this as well.
Yeah, we're at like 2.5%.
Pandemic rates are very unlikely to ever happen again. And they probably shouldn't have. They probably
Yes.
should not have gone that low. In fact,
Congratulations, you won the lottery.
Oh,
yeah,
wait, 121. That's when we close. So I think it's around,
the lowest.
yeah, it's right around that something in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want us to think about those pandemic rates as, oh, awesome. Those people who bought during that time and have the pandemic rates, they won the lottery. It's hard to win the lottery twice. The
18.6? What the hell?
1981. That's the highest that interest rates have been in the US. And of course, the lowest we've ever seen was in 2021. The average interest rate since 1972 is around 7.5. So we've, over the last 12 months, we've ebbed and flowed around the average to below the average. So it's hard to forget about those 2 to 3% interest rates, but they are a thing of the past. Where are they going? We keep hearing that rates are going to come down, but we haven't seen it. Where are rates going? There is a lot of pressure being applied right now by the new administration for the Fed to lower interest rates. Pop quiz. Who knows who the Fed is? When I said that, who knows who the Fed is? Or what
I
they
would say,
do?
I would say the Central Bank of America.
There you go. Yeah. So the Fed is, yep, the Federal Reserve. There are voting members of the Fed. They get together and they vote on whether or not they should cut the Fed funds rate. So when you hear in the news that rates went down, that's what they're talking about, typically, is the Fed cut the Fed funds rate. That is the rate at which the government will lend money to banks. So of course, if the Fed funds rate goes up and down, it trickles down to everything else, credit cards, auto loans, and mortgages. The next Fed meeting coming up is in September. I think it's like September 16th or 17th.
Can you repeat? You said something about the rate at which banks lend money to who? Or
The
the Fed? Can you say that again?
Yeah, the Fed funds rate is the rate at which the government will lend money to the banks. So
Thank
that
you.
they can then lend money to us. So it all just trickles down. The Fed meets again in mid-September, and again, we've been having a lot of pressure applied to them to cut this Fed funds rate. This graph we're looking at here, you can Google it. It's called the Fed dot plot. This is every voting member says, hey, this is how I'm anticipating I'm going to vote in the coming years for what I want rates to do. So in 2025, right now, Jesse, the Fed funds rate right now, 4.5%, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we can see here, here's our 4.5%. Everyone is saying they're going to vote for a cut in interest rates. But a lot of, see these blue lines here, we've got a lot of voting members saying in 2025, they see rates getting between that 3.5 to 4 on the Fed funds rate, which would mean if it's currently at 4.5, 4.5 to 4, we could possibly anticipate around a half a cut in 2025. And then so on and so forth. The next section is around 2026, 2027, and then in the longer run. So it just gives us some insight in how the Fed is seeing rates over these next couple of years and how we can see that they trend downwards, but then they do tend to level out. Like there's a little bit more unknown, I feel, in the 2027 to the longer run. It's just too far out to know.
Question: Can you explain the administration applying pressure to the Fed? You may have already explained that, but what does that entail in relation to these projections, the 25, 26, etc.?
Yeah, so the Trump administration, the new administration came in and has pretty much been saying to the Fed president, his name is Jerome Powell, we need to cut interest rates. The new administration wants rates to be cut because as rates get cut, it creates demand in the market. Because when money is cheaper to borrow, people will borrow it more frequently. So we want to create demand in the market by offering the lower interest rates to stimulate inventory, so people to list their houses, to stimulate home buyers who are on the fence right now, waiting for things to improve. So they're applying pressure to cut the interest rates to stimulate activity in the market. Good question. And then this is just another graph. We just love these graphs to just further show, trying to understand this graph actually. This is just another, it looks like this is just another graph to show kind of just the movement we've seen since 2021. So we can see here that just historical spike we saw in 2021 through 2022. We've had these little, we call them roller coastering. We've had these little roller coasterings, but we're starting to stay flat here around these upper 6s, 7.
Yeah, just a more short-term graph.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how much rates, and we'll also talk about how much price affects monthly payment, because that's a big question we get from our clients is, should I wait for rates to fall to buy?
Yeah, and just can be such a misconception before you see the math of how, and this will go back to where Mary Margaret will keep talking about the emotion versus the logic of just rate can feel emotional. Price can feel emotional, like, oh, 10,000 more in price, or rate a quarter cut. Like, how much does that actually affect it? So this is a cool one.
Mm-hmm. Every 1/4% in interest rate typically lowers your payment around $60 to $70 a month. So an increase in the interest rate or a decrease would be an increase or decrease in that monthly payment. Price, so going back to us talking about house prices, price impacts every $10,000 up or down in price is also about $60 to $70 up or down in payment. Now this is...
Was that surprising to anyone? Just out of curiosity to hear 10,000 is 60 to 70 bucks, or a quarter in rate is about that. Does that surprise anyone?
I don't speak numbers, so I'm still making sense of it.
You're awesome.
Yeah, I think it's always surprising that you're like, when you're negotiating, when you're thinking about, yeah, what price you want to pay, how much does it really affect your payment per month? So that's good to know.
I love where you went to, Ashley, with like as the negotiating tactic. It's easy to kind of clam up when you're negotiating on an offer for that like house you love and to let it go for $10,000. But when you think about letting that house go for $60 a month, does it feel different? If it does, great. If it doesn't, then yeah, that might not be the house for you. It might not be worth it. Let's see. I like to look at this comparison because we get people from both sides. I want to wait for rates to fall, or I want to wait for prices to fall. But let's play that out if we were to wait. If we wait a year and rates move from 7 to 6%, we just learned that every 1/4% is about $60 to $70 a month. So 1% would be around $250 a month. My payment went down because I waited. However, as we've talked about appreciation, if I wait a year, that house I was going to buy now just went up by 5 to 8%, depending on the year. So let's say that house price just went up by $25,000. Well, same thing. We just learned that every $10,000 is about 60 to 70 a month. So yeah, we saved $250 in our interest rate, but our payment's now higher by $175 because of the price. So that blends it to around $75 a month in savings by waiting. However, we just lost that equity. $25,000 per year based on the average home price of that $489 is what your home would appreciate. So we did lose out on $25,000 of equity as well, which I always think is important to know.
That's incredible, because yes, you it's easy to look at like, oh, but if rates moved, I would save $250. But no, the math shows no, you actually only saved $75 per month and lost $25,000 in that year. So what's that? Like about 2 grand
Mhm.
a month, actually. So you did not save $75.
Yeah,
That's pretty, yeah, those numbers feel pretty powerful.
I agree. And this is just showing kind of that as well. And remember too, I
We
love
just got excited,
the,
Mary Margaret.
yeah, I
The
know,
slide
right?
was coming.
Yeah. I love the little disclaimer at the bottom because that's the gamble you're taking too, is what if rates don't fall in that year? Because that's not a guarantee. You may wait and rates don't drop.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, before I go anywhere next, any questions so far? We're just going to review then. We called this myth versus fact at first, and we decided to come back to emotion versus logic. So this is just a quick recap on some of the emotions and fears we're hearing, and then bringing us back to some logic. So like we said, rates are high, I should wait. But we're under the average interest rate by almost 1%. Forget about those COVID rates. They're very, very, very unlikely to ever come back again. By waiting for that lower rate, like we just learned in that exercise, we're offsetting any savings because of that increased home prices. I love this analogy. Would you wait to plan your vacation for when the weather is going to be perfect at the beach that week? How do you know? Or do you just set the date, plan the vacation, and hope for the good weather?
Yeah, you still need the vacation.
Mm-hmm. You're still going to have a great time, even though it's raining.
And maybe it's not even raining.
That's exactly right. I want to move. Oh, wait. Yep. I'm sorry. My presenter screen is making me jump around on my slides. So same thing with our home prices. I'm going to wait for these home prices to come down. Since 1942, there have only been 6 years that house prices went down. So don't wait for that. There's a ton of, other than just interest rates and supply and demand, inflation, the cost of living, the cost of goods going up, increases house prices. The cost to build the house is more expensive, so now the cost of the house is more expensive. So housing is no different than inflation prices. These prices will continue to rise. All right, this one's for you, Amanda. I want to move, but I don't really want to sell my house first. We have options here. This is a big conversation we have with clients, is that second house. How do you navigate selling a home and buying the next? We want to show you that you have actually probably multiple options for setting this up. When we get to kind of those tips for getting your offer accepted, contingent versus non-contingent is huge in a competitive market. Contingent means I've got to sell my house before I buy that one. Non-contingent means I've got a backup plan. If my house doesn't sell first, we can make it work and still buy first. We partner with a lot of great agents like Miss Ashley Tuck on our webinar today, to collaborate and work together to try and time your sale and your purchase. And again, just have backup plans in case our plan A doesn't work out. Anything you want to speak to here, Jesse, with the buying and selling and navigating that?
Yeah, I would just say it's a lot of it is so much of a you don't know until you know. It's so easy for home buyers to think like, oh, well, I mean, a house is big. It is big. It feels big. Um, it's a good debt, but it just feels like a big debt that it's really easy for home buyers to think I can't move unless I sell my house first. Or even there might be we are probably I might be getting ahead of us, but or even like in Amanda in your situation, my rate's so low, maybe I don't want to, because I don't want to let go of this mortgage, and if I move, I have to sell. But do you have to sell? And you might think you do, because this is something you do generally only a few times in your life, that it just feels so big that you have to leave one in order to get the next. But it's just not the case. There are a lot of options of how to leverage that equity, because that equity is yours. That's a tool, and it can be a tool that also helps you get your next house, even without having to let go of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, just super stressed there. A lot of home buyers just think that, and that goes back to that emotion versus logic of, you just think it, but let's talk, and there's solutions here that we can navigate.
Mhm.
Yeah, can I ask a question about? I'm excited for people like Amanda to take this opportunity to have investment property. Like, why let it go at all if you can hold on to it
Yeah.
and keep it for longer, buy and hold it, because you do have such a low payment at that 2.25%. Like, that's crazy to let go of.
Almost
Yeah.
free
Are
money.
you seeing more people become investors or have investment property and think about that, generational wealth they get to pass on or keep as well? Like, I think it's beneficial. Like, we get to benefit from the pandemic rates on that end as well. Are you seeing more
Mhm.
people hang on and become just kind of have investment property?
Cheers to all of that, Ashley. Yes, yes, yes. Like more, and there's some arguments of like, well, part of why there's not as many homes on the market that are being sold, because we're hanging on to them, because why would we let it go if we don't have to? And so, and that's, one flare of like, there's moments where people might wish people would let go of those lower rates. But no, it is, more people are turning those primary homes into investments. And it is just, if you're able to capitalize during that time, it's just such a magical moment to build more generational wealth than you would have thought you could have.
Yeah, they say we're kind of going to become like a renter's nation too, and that supply is also low in the rental market.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of realtors are going to start specializing, I think, in property management arms
Yeah.
to offer their clients like Amanda, like, well, let's just hold your property and manage it for you while you move on to something else.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
It's
cool.
Well, that's
creating opportunities.
Mhm.
that's the thing is we've considered that, but we don't know the first thing about being landlords and managing a property. And so the thought
Yeah.
of even navigating that world is overwhelming. So if we
Yeah.
had our realtor or whomever we're working with that would be willing to partner with us through that, I think that would make it much more feel less overwhelming of a project, if you will, to take on. Um, and this may not my I have a question, and it may not be related to this webinar, but I'm just going to put it out there in case we have time now or later. Um, is there a term for if you choose not to sell your, like, when we go to move, if we buy the next house first and then sell this house second, is there a process or term for putting in a lump sum towards our new mortgage based off what we make from this house?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, Amanda. So if we look here on our number three, we introduce creative concepts such as recasting. So what you just brought up is a tool called a recast, which allows you to, not every loan program allows recast, so it'll be important to just learn which do and which don't. But it allows you to apply a large lump sum to the principal loan, and then your loan is reshuffled as if you made that down payment originally. The monthly payment comes down. Term stays the same, rate stays the same. You typically can recast once for the life of the loan, and there's usually a small fee. I've never seen one over $1,000. Jesse, I don't know if you can speak to that at all. I typically say the fees around 500 to 750, just depending.
Yes, around that. And we're even actually, as this concept is becoming more and more popular, um, seeing the ability to recast even more than once. It can get a little situation specific, but
Oh, nice.
it's a great tool. You don't have to refinance, as Mary Margaret's saying, it's a transaction, just a transactional fee where you're taking this one lump sum, applying it to amortizing your payment based on that new balance. So that's what you would do in that case, Amanda, for sure.
Mhm. I love it. I believe this is our last emotion versus logic, but that idea of, oh, I'll just never win in this market. It's too competitive. I can't win in this market. Prepared, I love that. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. The 5 Ps. Be prepared. And all of you are on this call. That is motivating. That is, you are preparing now. So way to go. Um, Working with the right team, we truly, truly, truly believe that makes all the difference. Like you said, Amanda, it's overwhelming to think about all the different options and how do you make this work and who do I even call? It's overwhelming. So lean on your primary care physicians, lean on the team that you surround yourself with. Um, it's important because there's also a lot of people out there, real estate agents, lenders, who might talk a big game but don't actually have the transactions to back it up. 70% of licensed agents in Virginia in 2024, 70% sold 0 homes. So when you're calling your Zillow and you pick up the phone and dial that agent, it's not to say that's not a great agent. That could be, but it's just important to spend that time asking the questions, making sure they're the right fit for you, your goals, what you're looking to do. Same with the lenders. We didn't get the exact statistic. I swear it was like close to 50%, but a huge decrease in mortgage consultants not renewing their license after this pandemic surge and now dip. So there's just a lot of inexperience out there. So that's why we encourage you to choose a great team, surround yourself with your team to help you in this market.
Yeah, heck yeah. And we'll have to grab that statistic to put it in for the next time, Mary Margaret, but it was about 60% of lenders left the business. But even then, it's about 20% of them that are doing the majority of the loans. And it's, I mean, yeah, as you can see, even with the statistic of agents, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that just still aren't, are only doing, 1 or 2 loans a month. And that's a statistic that I don't think we know, Mary Margaret, but it's probably like pretty similar to this one with agents where it's like, 20 to 30% of them. That's, that's wild.
It's crazy. What does it take to win in this market? We think you need confidence. We think you need to understand or know your numbers. Oh, look at that baby. We want you to be prepared. Like we said, have that great team around you. Understanding the market you're in, what it takes to win in the market that you're in, because it's always changing. Have a clear vision of your home for the home. What do you want? I think we'll look at, and if not, we'll include it in our when we send out this webinar. We have a must wish want list. It's so easy to go into a home and fall in love or be like, no, this doesn't check any of the boxes. But again, going back to logic, what must we have? What do we wish it had? What do we want? So just knowing what you want out of the house and the budget. We do teach a budget class. We're huge on budgeting. So knowing what is doable for you and your family, what's comfortable, especially if you're considering an increase in that payment. And then, yeah, just understanding that macro market as well. How else can we help you? I think almost all of you have gone through this process with us before, so you know a little bit about what makes us different. We like to take that time to ask questions, learn about your goals, learn about what your family's vision is, not only for this house, but over these next several years, so we can advise you. You know that we're going to sit down with you, we're going to strategize, we're going to walk you through and make sure you understand your options and have a good path and plan forward. I'm not sure if any of you have experienced our underwriting approval process, but this is something that's a little newer to us. I'd say we've been doing this over a year, Jesse, around a year, that we've really made this a focus.
Yeah, definitely.
But upfront underwriting, you can go through underwriting now before you ever found the house. You're completing almost 50 to 70% of the mortgage process before you ever go under contract. So one, it gives you that confidence that we're talking about, but two, it also gives you leverage, because when you're competing and you get to say to a seller, hey, I've been through underwriting, my offer is as good as cash, you're going to shine a lot brighter. We are hands-on. When you are writing an offer, we are on your team. We are calling listing agents. We're helping strategize. And then, of course, we're just guiding you all the way through this process. So we do believe in our process. We call it our proven process, because we find that our home buyers, our clients, just have a lot more confidence, have a lot more success, and just have a better time through the home buying process.
And that's more than a bit of a, shameless plug. It's true of this, of how to buy a house right now, and of the lending industry. If someone was with another local lender and this is what they were doing, then fantastic. That's what your lender should be doing for you. So it's a bit more than just a shameless plug. It's a true belief. This is how you buy a house right now.
I agree, Jesse. I love that. Whether it's us or someone else, just make sure whoever you're hiring is doing these things for you. And we're about wrapped up. We just want to let you know that we do have a webinar every month. The next webinar is the game of money. I really like this one, the game of money. It is not just about buying a house, but it's also just talking about the many different avenues you have for building wealth. It goes over the things we should be taught in schools, but we're not. It's really cool. So if you'd like to join that webinar, you can visit our events page at the Cowart team, or be on the lookout for an invite, which you will receive. Questions, comments, anything before we leave?
Thanks for all you do, guys. I'll be coming monthly to your
Oh, we love it. Please do.
Love it.
We appreciate you being on here.
And thank you both for participating. Sometimes we get where you're just talking to yourself for 45 minutes. So I love when people participate and chime in and join. So thank you so much.
Yes, Amanda, so glad to see your face.
Yeah, and it's actually really good timing because Kim is coming by on Friday to do just like a very preliminary walkthrough to let us know, like, through the winter, what things we can work on for our house, for our plan next year, and to just kind of talk through the plan, because I think the plan was initially 25.
We get it. You're fine.
Here's a toy. She's going to. So anyways, it just happened to be really good timing this week. So
nice.
we will be reaching out to you guys.
Yeah, we'll check in with you. We'll follow up with you, Amanda, and keep the game plan going.
Yeah, because our plan had changed, basically what I mentioned with the thinking that we needed to sell first before we bought the next. That has shifted since we had our call with y'all last year, whenever that was. So, and we still got time. But yeah.
Well, we're here for you.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Tonight was great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Amanda.
Bye.